Thank you. I'm kind of really looking for practical ways of diversifying staff and faculty. So I guess my questions to all three, is how do you have diversity initiatives on your campuses or workplace, and how have you gone about diversifying, really getting the candidates in the door? Because that's my frustration, is getting the candidates in the door and making it important. And where do I go?
Where are you located?
Geneva, New York,
Okay.
upstate New York.
So when you say in the door, do you mean for the interview or do you mean actually hired?
I mean, diversifying the pool, where place, in terms of suggestions of how to get a diverse pool, as well as if I'm getting them in the door, then I think we have a better chance of getting them hired. And we are doing better on faculty, particularly because it's a longer period of time for a faculty hire and tenure track, I find, than it is for staff, which is more immediate. And I'm getting pressure from the boss of, how are we diversifying this group?
Well, one of the things that, in terms of the staffing end of it, I would start by suggesting looking at where your competition are pulling people. There's a lot to be said for looking at who your competitors are and what strategies and techniques they're using. So I'm not sure exactly what's close to Geneva, New York.
We're in between Rochester and Syracuse, so our competition is the more private liberal arts colleges in upstate New York.
Right. I would definitely start tracking who they're hiring and where they're getting those people. That's one thing. The other thing that I would look at is diversifying where you're looking. If you're not satisfied with the results that you have at this point, then you need to sort of recalibrate your approach, and that may involve branching out in ways that you might not have thought about previously. So I think one of the things that Duchess mentioned was looking in different geographic regions. I've noticed that a lot of organizations tend to look where they are, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you're not in a particularly diverse geographic area and you want diversity, you're going to have to diversify the geographic nature of your search. So you may want to start looking at places in the South. You may want to look at places out west. You may want to talk to folks who are at schools that they may not be satisfied with in the Midwest, who might be interested in moving to beautiful Hudson Valley.
I think that's an excellent point. As Stacy mentioned, I got a law degree. It was after tenure, and I went to a local regional night law school, right? That would be fourth tier ranking, right? And so people in the Twin Cities would reach out there and say, we can't find anyone. For instance, when I graduated, there were 3 blacks in the graduating class. Now, what I would say to them is that Howard University Law School is ranked head and shoulders above this place, which has, where I went, the Court of Appeals in the state has 17 justices, 9 went from that school, right? But I'm saying, if you went to Howard, you'd have the entire pool, and they actually might be more qualified, right? We have to reconfigure, what is qualified. And it's just, location really matters.
I also, and this, I think will broaden that net in multiple ways, but I think increasingly universities need to, and all searches need to better take advantage of social media and the ways to access different populations in different ways. I know whenever someone sends me a flyer and says, put it on your bulletin board, I'm like, one, that was not the best use of your money. And two, wouldn't it be better to send me a JPEG and I could post it? I know when we did a temporary search last summer, and we did it because we were on time press, we did it in 2 weeks. And most everyone we yielded was from posting and people resharing either on Twitter, Facebook, and this idea of we're just going to post it on the web and in these traditional places needs to be challenged. And I do think it will have effects on diversity in multiple ways if we look at the way that social media is used and so on and so forth. So
That's great.
Just in a few conversations I've had with some deans or folks in your position, and just to piggyback off of what David has said, you know, where your advertising is important. Are you putting all of your notices in one place? How about the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education? Go to, you know, specific media where you know these folks are reading these types of announcements. The other thing I heard, and this was from a white female dean, she suggested that minority faculty be offered combat pay. And we kind of chuckled about that, but she says, well, you know, if you are one of a few people coming to an atmosphere this way, there's some things you're going to have to deal with. So you got to make it worth their while financially. And what other kinds of incentives can you offer them? Another thing she said is housing stipends. So if your campus is in a place that's predominantly white and there's a local Asian community or Black community somewhere, so you know, perhaps you can provide a transportation stipend or a housing stipend so those people can actually live in those communities and commute to campus. But she says one of the problems to that is that when you have one or two, you know, minority faculty members, the tendency is to want them there so that they can be accessible to students. So those are some things that you might want to consider as well. If I'm going to come here and you say this is a good place, you know, what else do you have in place, be it cluster hires or combat pay or whatever, to make this worth my while?